Welcome to our channel. Today we bring you fascinating stories, surprising fictional scenarios inspired by movies. In this journey, let's follow the story of Nicole, a famous psychologist. A woman who was caught up in a dark conspiracy beyond imagination, where the line between justice and sin gradually becomes blurred. She used to be a symbol of tolerance and professionalism. A famous psychologist, who used to stand in the middle of other people's wounds to heal, but now Nicole falls into the dark maze of wrong decisions led by despair. It all started with the fear, a primitive, dark and fierce fear, that she could lose her only son. That boy, only 8 years old, was the whole world she had left after the years of Marcus's cold and domineering marriage. Marcus, not just a man, but a force. With fame, money, and connections spanning from the financial world to the authorities, Marcus is a solid mountain in the eyes of everyone. To the court, he is a model father, rich, able to provide the best for his son. As for Nicole, despite her education and reputation in the industry, she is still a woman who is struggling between psychological instability and treatments that she herself dares not admit, because of the invisible wounds left by life with Marcus. When the divorce papers were filed, and the issue of child custody became the key, Nicole felt that she had no chance. She knew Marcus well, knew how he used glossy words, carefully staged images to gain all the sympathy from the court. But because she knew him so well, she knew that Marcus was not perfect. She knew of his hidden rages, his uncontrolled reactions, his cold, inhuman behavior. And she had records of patients who had shown similar signs. She began to think dangerously that if she could reconstruct a complete medical record that made Marcus look like he had a serious personality disorder, she could turn the tables. From scraps of material email exchanges, the history of informal psychiatric consultations Marcus had with former medical colleagues, Nicole began to construct a scenario. She deftly used her professional system to reconstruct the medical records so that they all made sense and seemed authentic. The expressions Marcus had shown when angry with her, the threatening words, the excessive control, all were transformed into a sophisticated fake psychiatric profile, a diagnosis of narcissistic personality disorder with latent violent tendencies. Nicole was careful to leave no trace. All changes were made on a separate digital copy, not going through any official system. However, what she did not anticipate was the change in herself. Once holding that dangerous weapon in her hands, something inside her shattered. Nicole's once moral pillar of conscience was gradually overwhelmed by a survival instinct, not just to survive but to win. She did not immediately hand over the file to the court. Instead, she chose a more cruel way. She sent the copy to Marcus's private law office. There were no threats in the email, just a picture of the medical records attached. And is short, you understand what this could do, right? Marcus was silent for 48 hours after receiving the documents. Nicole began to feel nervous. She didn't know how he would react. Would he call a lawyer? Would he fight back? Would he drown her in a vicious media campaign? But no, he did what she had never expected. He came to see her. Alone, in silence. There were no witnesses to the encounter. But afterward, Nicole quietly removed the fake records from her encrypted hard drive. No one knows what was said. Marcus withdrew his request for custody shortly after. He never showed up for the final court hearing. Nicole won full custody. But the price was an uneasy silence, like the silence before the storm. Soon, Nicole began to notice strange things. Her bank account was temporarily locked for unauthorized access. Her office was raided by health inspectors on the pretext of a random check. Her former colleagues became wary. Some even hinted that they knew about the record fraud. Nicole tried to stay calm. But her intuition told her, Marcus would not give up easily. He might lose a battle, but he would come back. Her little son, whom she had used every trick to keep, began to act strange. He seemed to be hiding something. One day Nicole discovered a USB drive in her son's school bag. When she plugged it into her computer, she saw only a blurry video, an image of her sitting there editing a medical record. Her face was clearly visible, her hand typing each line. Nicole was stunned. She did not know who had recorded the video. There were only two possibilities: either Marcus had installed the camera beforehand, or a third party had been watching her. She began to lose sleep, panic, and always lived with the feeling that someone was watching her. Things got worse when the little boy started saying things that sounded drilled into his head: that his father wasn't a bad person, that his mother had lied to win. Nicole tried to stay sane, but slowly she slipped into a state of paranoia. She hired a tech expert to scan the house, and discovered a tiny audio tracking device the size of a fingertip hidden in the medicine cabinet. She had no doubt Marcus was watching her every move. But why hadn't he made it all public? Why hadn't he taken the video to court and had her ousted? The answer came soon enough: a black envelope sent to Nicole's house. Inside was a sheet of paper, printed in red ink: "We'll end where you started, with lies." There were no fingerprints, no postmarks. There was only fear as thick as darkness, waiting to swallow Nicole. She began to understand: she was not just dealing with a man, but a secret system behind him. Maybe an organization, maybe a network of other powerful individuals. Marcus did not need to rush revenge, because he knew that a slow fall would be the most painful punishment. Nicole stood among the broken pieces of herself: a mother who won her child with lies, a doctor who broke her medical oath, a woman who seemed to have one but was trading her peace for a lifetime. But she also knew one thing: she had entered this game, and she could not stop. She had to continue. She had to find out who was helping Marcus. She had to gather evidence before he took it all away. She had a new plan. This time it was no longer about faking or threatening. She would gather the truth, and if she had to drag Marcus to hell with her, she would. In the midst of conspiracy, lies and hatred, Nicole is no longer a psychiatrist. She is a mother in a fight for survival, a woman entering a dark world that she has opened up, where every step could be the last. But one thing is certain: she will not retreat. Not until the truth is revealed. Not while the secret keeper is still alive out there. Nicole spends the next few days observing, silently and patiently. Like a predator waiting for its prey to appear. She begins to record every unusual sign around the house, install signal detectors, and even replace the entire network system. The word suspicion no longer exists in her mind, only preparation for a long battle, where only one person is allowed to survive the final, naked truth. She tracked down a black SUV without a license plate that was usually parked about 2 blocks away. On several nights, she saw a faint blue light from inside the car, as if someone were watching or recording. One time, she deliberately left home late, went into the woods behind her house, and then returned by a roundabout route, hiding behind the trees. She caught sight of a figure getting out of the SUV and walking toward her door, as if checking something. As the figure retreated, she discovered a new device attached to the back of the door: a real-time transmitter. No more proof was needed. For Nicole, the intrusion had crossed the line of safety. She gathered all the evidence, created a separate hard drive that encrypted the data, and hid it in a place she was sure no one would find it: in an old warehouse at the hospital where she had worked, to which only she had the key. She needed time, she needed strategies. And most importantly, she needed support from someone Marcus didn't expect. She began reaching out to former patients, people who had been victims of abuse, control, and manipulation. For years, they kept quiet. But beneath the professional facade, Nicole kept track of their stories, and every time Marcus appeared at social events with influential figures, she realized there was a strange connection between him and underground power groups that no one publicly acknowledged. She went through the files, checked the investments, the hidden personal relationships. Each little piece of the puzzle gradually led to a name, an organization beyond the gates. It wasn't a legitimate company, nor did it exist publicly in any database. But the name had appeared in a few deleted emails, in deeply encrypted archives. Nicole guessed that this was a network of control where powerful individuals used people like Marcus to manipulate the legal, medical, financial, and media systems. Marcus wasn't the center. He was the tool, a loyal cog in the machine. She had hacked into one of the organization's servers, using the IP address that had accessed her computer. It was a system full of data on hundreds of individuals, medical records, criminal histories, personal habits. She realized that she wasn't the only one being tracked. Everyone who had ever resisted Marcus, who had refused to do business with Beyond the Gates, had their own files. Among them was a woman named Alina, a former forensic doctor who had disappeared without a trace after investigating Marcus in an internal lawsuit. Nicole found Alina's last known GPS coordinates: a wasteland on the edge of the northern forest of the state. Without hesitation, she drove there, carrying the encrypted hard drive and all the collected records. When she arrived, she found only a half-collapsed abandoned house, but there were signs of people staying there. Under the rotten floor was a secret bunker locked with a password. She tried the passwords related to the date of Alina's disappearance, and finally opened it. Inside were documents detailing Beyond the Gates, the leaders, the psychological manipulation process, and how they controlled key figures in the system. Nicole read for hours, feeling like she was lost in a maze where everyone was a chess piece. Alina had gathered evidence to expose the organization, but before she could publish it, she disappeared. Nicole knew, now the task was hers. She used a secret server to create copies and send these documents to 4 secret addresses abroad, in case they were leaked. At the same time, she planned to publish all the information through an independent press platform, along with a note explaining the whole plot. But before she could do it, Nicole returned home to pack for a long trip, only to find that the house had been ransacked. Everything was in disarray, as if someone was looking for something very specific. However, the original hard drive was safely hidden. Only one thing stunned her: her son was missing. There was no sign of a struggle, no trace of coercion. On the table was a single piece of paper. Scrawled in the familiar handwriting of a child: "You don't have to find me. I'll be fine. Don't tell the truth." Nicole screamed into silence. For the first time, she felt as if her world had collapsed. Marcus had acted. But not for revenge, but to silence her. She realized that if she spoke out now, her son would be in danger. If she remained silent, she would live in the shadows while Marcus continued to rule. She had to choose between truth and flesh. But there was one thing Marcus didn't know: Nicole was no longer the woman she had been. She was not weak or compromised. She was the product of sleepless nights, of ultimate falls, and of absolute sobriety in despair. She sends a signal to the secret addresses she has set up. Signaling that the Phoenix operation is activated, a series of data leaks will be released every 3 days unless she cancels the command remotely. At the same time, she leaves the city, beginning her journey to find her son, not by law, but by the same underground network Marcus used to track her. This time, she will penetrate the very place where people like Marcus live under the mask of power. There is no reason or morality to guide her. Only instinct, a mother's instinct, a warrior's instinct. Nicole walks into the night, not knowing if there is a way back. But she knows one thing: this time, either Marcus falls, or she will bury it all with her. The story does not end. What Nicole is about to discover may not only be the truth about Marcus or Beyond the Gates, but also the truth about herself, about the memories she has tried to forget. About the darkness that has haunted her all her life and is now waiting to swallow everything. Deeper secrets still lurk behind closed gates, where whispers still echo in the night. And every footstep leads to a bottomless abyss. If you are drawn into the story and want to discover the mysterious sequel, follow and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss the next episodes that will be even darker, more surprising and haunting. We will be back with new chapters, where the light at the end of the tunnel may not be the way out, but the eyes of someone waiting for you to step forward.